Most parents believe Europe is only for wealthy families, and that belief is wrong. And it's probably the one thing that's stopping you. We've taken 4 kids to Europe. We're not rich and we didn't win the lottery. We just use a system. And once you understand the system, Europe stops feeling like a luxury fantasy and starts feeling like straight math. Because the problem isn't the income, it's the assumptions. And most families sometimes don't run these numbers correctly. Flights look expensive. Hotels look expensive. Instagram makes it look glamorous. And so parents think this is for the rich families, it's for people that have a lot of money. But here's what most people never calculate, it's not the income that makes Europe possible, it's priorities and planning. And when you look at the math differently, the entire conversation changes. Let's compare something most American families already accept as normal. These are mid range scenarios that I'm gonna go over with early booking. So there's this caveat, okay? Flights vary. Seasons matter when you're booking and planning trips, but this is the realistic math for many families. A 5 day Disney trip for a family of 6 or 4 even can easily cost between 6,000 and 10,000, sometimes more. Tickets, they can run you easily 3 to 4,000. Hotels, 2 to 3,000. Food, baseline 1,000. Extras can easily be 1,000 or more depending on what you're buying. Then you have transportation and souvenirs. And so you add that all up and your total is roughly 6,000 to $10,000. And that's for less than a week. And for many families, the difference isn't as extreme as people assume. And now, if you compare the 10 days in Europe, so we went from 5 days to Disneyland to 10 days in Europe, yes, flights can be the biggest upfront expense. There are many ways to lower your flight cost. In fact, I personally just got international flights from Asia to the UK for $142 per person by splitting up the trip. So there are many ways, okay? And I have other videos that you can check out if you specifically want to get cheaper flights, and let me know in the comments and I will specifically do one because there are so many that you can do. But yes, if you're just looking generically and you are not looking or you don't know how to look for cheap flights, flights can be the biggest upfront expense. But once you're there, your daily cost in many European cities can be comparable to or lower than major US tourist destinations. I know this is going to be different. It's location dependent, right? Location, location, location. But when you look at the math differently, the entire conversation changes. And again, mid-range prices with early bookings, flight might range from $600 to $1,200 per person, depending on the season and the time. And for 4 people, that's 3,600 to 7,200, and that's not with any of the price discounts applied for the flights. So if you stay in an apartment, your average could be maybe, or even a hotel, it could be 200 to 300 per night for 10 nights. So that's roughly $2,000 to $3,000. And for food, you might be averaging 100 to 150 per day. And for groceries and your simple meals, that could be about 1,000 to 1,500. Now, there are many ways to also cut down your groceries and your meals, so check out those videos as well. Public transportation might be 300 to 600, but that one's really going to depend on what city you're traveling to. So your total could be about 5,700 to 10,000. Apartments instead of hotel rooms are going to give you full kitchens to cut down on your grocery cost and your meal cost. And it's going to give you a washing machine so that you can pack less, have less checked luggage, and you can do a load of laundry as well. Europe also boasts tons of walkable cities, and so you don't always have to drive somewhere or pay a ride share company to get you from point A to point B. And simple local foods instead of the theme park pricing really can have a massive effect on the food cost. So for many families, When you spend flight cost, when you're spreading it across 10 to 14 days, the per day cost is closer to Disney than you would expect. And this is the part that not many people talk about. And this is where the myth starts to fall apart. It starts to unravel, okay? If you're understanding what I'm putting here. If you're doing these math numbers, it it falls apart. It's where most families you're either going to lean into this, or the other families they write Europe completely off, because the real difference isn't cost, it can be about the structure of the trip. So let's talk about the system, because this isn't just luck. First, we book early. Flights are always going to be cheaper when they're planned months in advance. So waiting until the last minute is where Europe is going to start looking impossibly expensive. Second, we travel slower. We don't move cities every 2 days. The fewer the transitions means the fewer the train tickets, fewer the city taxes, fewer the, cleaning fees if you're doing an apartment, fewer the taxi rides, and fewer convenient cost of having to eat out on travel days. And third, we use apartments strategically. Laundry access alone reduces how much we're able to pack, and it reduces our baggage fees and stress. And fourth, we rely heavily on public transportation when we are traveling through Europe and Asia. European trains and metros are often cheaper and more efficient than rental cars and parking in major cities. And fifth, we plan experiences intentionally, not just overdoing it and making everybody exhausted. Not every day is going to need a paid attraction. Some of the best days in Europe are simple walking days, getting lost in local neighborhoods, and finding mom and pop restaurants that love your kids, love your family, and you have this authentic feel that you are leaving with. And it's about cutting the unnecessary spending that you don't need. That's the difference. It's not magic, but it's the basic structure. So if you're thinking, but flights alone make it impossible, that is the most common objection, and I hear you. Flights can feel huge because they're also paid up front, but when you divide that cost across the longer trip and you use my flight hacks, the daily average changes dramatically. And the mental shift is where most families sometimes almost always get stuck. They compare Europe to staying at home instead of comparing it to what they're already spending on their other vacations each year. So now let's talk about the real trade off. We prioritize travel. This means that we don't prioritize certain other expenses maybe the same way. Not because we're extreme and not because we're perfect by any means, but because you can't fund everything at once at the same time, right? For many families, Europe feels impossible not because of income, but because of our spending patterns. That's maybe an honest conversation that we need to have. Or maybe that could be like a really good next video. Let me know if that's a good idea, and I will make another video on our spending patterns, right? And the priorities and how that fits into making travel a priority if you want it to be. So once you start to see this clearly, it becomes empowering instead of just feeling discouraging, like we're never going to have this money. It's never going to happen. This is just a pipe dream. Okay. So here's the bottom line: Europe with kids isn't cheap, but it's not reserved for wealthy families. When you plan intentionally, travel at the right pace, and structure your spending, it becomes far more realistic than most families think. But they sometimes cross it off in their mind, so they never get to explore that option. The biggest barrier is not income. It's assumptions. And these assumptions are generally incorrect. So that's what I'm here for. I'm here to help you with that. If you're serious about making Europe happen for your family, but if you're guessing, that you just are not going to get there, you need a plan. You need the free family packing list where most families can start, because overpacking and poor planning are where money gets wasted first. So go download it. It's in my description and in the pinned comment. Then if you want the full system, the exact budgeting structure, the itinerary pacing, your accommodation strategy, and the cost framework that we use, The Stress Free Family Travel course walks you through it step by step. It's not inspiration, it's a legitimate framework, and everything is linked below. If Europe feels out of reach right now, it's not because you are not rich, it's because you don't have the right system yet.